Hello, I'm Tom, your friendly neighborhood atheist, and we are getting ready for Gateway. And I'm here with David Smalley. Many of you probably know him from Dogma Debate. But David, what else have you been doing besides moving to California from Texas?
I'm working on a new book. I signed a deal with Podcast One in LA, so we're sort of taking this whole atheism thing to the mainstream. There are plenty of atheists in the mainstream, but they don't always talk about their atheism. So this deal with this network has been an opportunity for me to sit down with people like Adam Carolla and Dave Rubin, and rather than just talk politics, specifically say, hey, you're an atheist. Why don't you talk about it more? Why aren't you an advocate for atheism? What do you think is wrong with the atheist community or movement, and what would it take for you to join us and advocate for our causes? Also getting involved with Secular Coalition for America, helping them to lobby for legislation change and things like that. I've been spinning up the blog again. I want to, I see a lot going on with the atheist movement, a lot of infighting. I want to address that stuff. I want to repair it. I want to patch it. I want to talk about how we can save what we have left and stop making people leave. We're never going to find that perfect atheist. We're never going to find the perfect group of atheists. So let's stop. Let's not divide ourselves to the point that we are the single atheist in our own group, surrounding ourselves in a bubble. Let's embrace other people and fight the big monster that's trying to teach our kids that creationism is on par with evolution. Let's fight the big monsters that are trying to teach our kids abstinence only sex education and things that aren't medically accurate. Let's attack the big things. Let's attack things that are trying to prevent stem cell research and things like that. Let's address the environmental issues and global warming and things that are really going to affect us long term, instead of fighting over, who didn't bring the brownies last week to the get together and why we're going to block her dumbass from ever coming to our Facebook page. Let's not do that, right? Let's embrace our differences. I know that it becomes worrisome for me when I feel like I can have deeper, more serious conversations with a Christian or Republican and be open about my challenges than I can with people in my own circle, without a fear of being ostracized or called a Nazi or something like that. So we've got some work to do, and that's really what I'm focused on right now, not only with my book, but with the podcast, with reaching out to some celebrities who I'm now connected with here in LA, and just trying to move this whole thing forward in a positive direction to say we don't have to all be the same. We are never going to find that perfect atheist. Let's stop wasting time with that. So I want to see it repaired. I want to see relationships rebuild, and I want to see us strengthen and really make an impact for our future.
Well, you are pretty much an atheist industry unto yourself. You mentioned your book and also evolution, which brings me to the other thing that you've been supporting, which is the Little Thinkers and
Tiny,
the Darwin book.
tiny thinkers. Yeah.
Tiny Thinkers.
Little thinkers, I think, is actually a Christian thing.
Yeah,
Funny.
I remember because part of your talk at the last Gateway was talking about that, and I think that's probably where it got in
Yeah.
my head.
So it's tinythinkersbooks.com. It's all plural. Tinythinkersbooks.com. We just signed a deal with Rare Bird Distribution and the PR firm who they're connected with, Ingram. So with the major publisher, and so now the book is in Barnes and Noble, it's in Books a Million, it's basically anywhere. And then we've got a new one that's Charlie and the Tortoise. The new one's coming out is Richie Doodles, which is about Richard Feynman, from the perspective of him being a kid going on an adventure. And we did the same thing with Charlie and the Tortoise, which is about Charles Darwin. And then we've got one coming out about Carl Sagan called Carl Went to the Library. So what we do is we take these stories of scientists, real life scientists who changed the world or had some sort of massive discovery, and we tell the story from the perspective of them being a kid going on an adventure. And the books were originally written by M.J. Mouton, and he presented them to me as a whole package idea and said, I would love to get this out to the world. And so I've helped him put the books together, edit them. I'm sort of the production manager overseeing all of it, putting it all together. Nicole Crenshaw is a graphic designer, has been a wonderful illustrator. We're putting the whole books together and then telling the stories of these scientists as though they were a kid going on an adventure to inspire other little kids to go, hey, I can go out and change the world too. And Cara Santa Maria wrote the foreword for the Charles Darwin book. The Richie Doodles book about Richard Feynman, the foreword was written by Lawrence Krauss. And then the Carl Sagan book, the foreword is written by Michael Shermer. So we're super excited to be working with these folks and to not only share the stories of these scientists who help change the world, but also inspire other little kids to continue doing it. And these first three books are all three old white guys, and we're aware of that. Um, and so we are going. We already have the stories written. We are specifically going to target female scientists, African American scientists, Hispanic scientists. We definitely want to show the diversity that science has had in its past. Our three biggest rollouts when we signed the contracts with the big companies, that's what they wanted to see first.
Yeah.
But we always said there are a lot of minority and female scientists that we do want to highlight, and they were totally okay with that. So we're pushing for that, and those books are still coming. So people can stay updated at tinythinkersbooks.com.
And as we get ready for Gateway, I understand that Thomas True has got you working very hard for this conference. Got you doing all kinds of stuff.
He
Not only
does.
going to get a talk, but you can do a live dogma
Yeah,
debate and stand up.
he's got me as a triple threat, I think. He's that's such a braggadocious way to say it, Trump. He's got me doing a comedy show, so I'm doing some stand up there. I've done a lot of stand up here in LA, and I'm having a blast with it. I did some at Reason Rally as well. And I started stand up about 12 years ago, but I never really made it a big part of my life. I just kind of dabbled in it and had fun. Since I've been in LA, my agent and the guys that I've worked with here locally, they're tied into the comedy business, and they're like, hey, do you want to come do a show? And so I'm not going to turn it down. I've been having a blast with it. And so I'm doing some comedy there at Gateway to Reason. I'm also doing a live dogma debate podcast. I'm going to try to drag R and Raw, maybe Phil Ferguson. I don't know if Alex Jules is going to join me, but I'm going to try to grab some people and do a live dogma debate podcast. And I'm also giving a talk. And the talk I'm giving is called Eating Our Own, how we can save the atheist movement and sort of stop all the infighting and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's exciting to me.
That's a very
What's that?
That's a very important message because it's very true. I'm always amazed I get more flack from other atheists than I do from Christians.
Yeah, when you can have
about,
a conversation, and I notice I sit down in front of right here in my studio, I'll sit down with a fundamentalist pastor who is conservative, Trump supporter, wants to teach creationism in science classes. He sits down across from me, and when I can challenge him and he can challenge me without calling me names or blocking me or refusing to ever talk to me again, and I can disagree with him and we can leave with a little bit better understanding of one another, and hopefully potentially have a change of heart or change minds. And then I feel like if I'm in an atheist circle, I can't say half the things I could say to the pastor, then we're doing something wrong. A lot of people in this episode I just released today, a listener named Wayne wrote in and said, I stopped posting my true feelings around my atheist friends, and I only talk to preachers and pastors about the truth because I'm afraid of being ostracized or called names for having a differing opinion. And that's sad. We may be doing atheism right, but we're doing skepticism wrong. And we've got to get our heads around skepticism if this is going to be successful. And so I talk about that on this episode 318 of Dogma Debate that just came out. And of course, next week I'm with Pete Boghossian, and then I've got Dave Rubin and Dennis Prager, and we're going to continue talking about these sorts of things. I just talked about it with Michael Shermer on the show as well. Lawrence Krauss is coming up. These guests I'm talking about are wanting less and less to do with us because of the explosive, hateful vitriol that's flying around in our movement, and we're going to isolate ourselves, looking for that perfect atheist or looking for the perfect group of atheists. We're going to isolate ourselves to be so tiny that we're going to be ineffective. And we've got to stop searching.
It's strange. It says this, some people think that there's a specific atheist face we need to put out, and anyone who deviates from that, it's like, oh no, you're doing it wrong. You got to shut up. And it's a lot like religion in some ways, which is why everyone keeps comparing it. Yeah. But yes, it's learning to be an atheist is just learning that it's only one thing that makes an atheist. Everything else is secondary, and there's no specific atheist face.
Yep. And that's why
some do atheism like religion, and some do it like camping.
Yeah, and to me, that's why I like what Ian Harris said on the most recent episode of the show. He said maybe we shouldn't even have an atheist movement. Wait, maybe it should just be a skeptic movement, because skepticism will eventually lead to atheism. But a lot of atheists aren't doing skepticism right. And if I'm ever one of those people, I want to be shown how I can look at it differently. But just because I disagree with you doesn't mean I'm doing skepticism wrong. It's how I disagree with you that will show you how I'm doing skepticism right. And so I just think it's important, when I can sit down and talk with preachers and pastors, or I can talk with, a female preacher about abortion and disagree with her. She doesn't tell me to shut my mouth. She doesn't say, "Hey, you're a man, you have nothing to say about this." She listens to what I have to say and tells me why she thinks I'm wrong. And that's a respectful thing to do, not silencing people we disagree with. And so I think it's very important that we open ourselves up to disagreement. We open ourselves up to understanding we're not going to find that perfect atheist. And if you go back and listen to my episode I did with Michael Shermer, he specifically talked about
Yeah.
Ayn Rand, and how Ayn Rand kept making her group smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, because she kept kicking people out because they didn't wear the right clothes or attend the right parties or smoke the right cigarettes. And by the time she was near her end, it was just her, and she had forced everybody out of
Yeah.
her life. And we're never going to be successful that way. We've got to stop and think about the common goals, and you know um, the people who are fighting to creationism in schools, and to teach our kids abstinence only sex education, and these massive, massive issues that are really going to affect our future, our children's future, our grandchildren's future. These are the things that we should be focusing on. Not that these other things aren't important, but are we willing
Yeah.
to throw the baby out with the bathwater? That's what we need to stop and do, because that's what we need to stop and think about, because that's what we're doing right now. And so that's what my talk is about, is how we can bridge those gaps and stop searching for the perfect atheist. The comedy show might touch on that, because there's a lot funny about what happens. A lot of funny reasons people are getting blocked and ostracized. And then, the Live Dogma Debate podcast, I hope I've got a really good crazy song of the week. Some Republicans say the darndest things, because I love having fun with audio when I've got a live crowd in front of me. So I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. Well, I know you've done a bazillion of these things. Is there anything in particular about this gateway that you're looking forward to?
The fact that I get to do all three things. Usually when people have me out, they'll have me just do a live podcast, or just do a talk and go home. Or if I do stand up, I have to go to Hollywood and I do stand up. That's what I'm looking forward to. Every single day I'm working, and that's a blast. I love being a part of the conference. I like attending them. I like watching the talks, but it's really exciting that every day I have something that I'm offering and bringing to the table. It's exciting.
Yeah, I wish more people would find little ways to get involved. You do a big thing. Thomas is doing a big thing by putting together this conference. I try to do small things like doing these interviews, and I made a few displays for people to help them out in what they do. And just going to these conferences and getting involved with other people and finding out how you can get more involved in fun and interesting ways. But that's what I want to encourage more and more people to do, because atheism is not, it's one thing. Making the world a better place is the bigger plan, I think, anyhow.
Yep. And
But,
I think the way we can do that is by sticking together and making
yes.
ourselves, if we can stick together, we're going to have a louder voice. We're going to force them to pay attention to us. If we are 40 different fractions of a common goal, it's going to be very hard for us to get traction.
Well, I look forward to hearing you talk, and I always like your live shows. I don't know that there's going to be any free time at this conference. He's got it so packed with activities and talks and panels and comedy and singing, and I'm sure Matthew Delahunty will find some time to put on a magic show.
Probably. And if it's not on the schedule, he'll do it in the lobby. You just watch. Just hang around him in the lobby, get a couple of beers in him, and he'll make some shit disappear.
Well, David, I really appreciate you sitting down and talking with me. I look forward to seeing you again and hearing your talk, and just everything that's going to be going on. And it's going to be a packed weekend. It's going to be July 28th through 30th, and it's going to be it's only $50 for the pre-sale, which is a very reasonable price for a conference of this magnitude. And even if you're only able to make it for one day, it's still worth it.
And by the way, If you use a promo code David, you get 20% off your ticket.
Okay, definitely. David will be in the notes below. Put in David and you will get a discount on the ticket. That's
Right.
even better.
Awesome.
Well, thanks again, David, and see you soon. This
All right.
has been Tom, your friendly neighborhood atheist. We're getting ready for Gateway. It's only a few weeks away. I'll catch you next time. Bye.